Hey, it is Rachel, and I will tell you that by the time parents come to me, and even when I talk to parents who are not necessarily my clients, what I find is that we are generally all overwhelmed and depleted and often very resentful of our kids' behavior, especially when they're asking us for things or they want more and more and more for us. When I do a little digging, what I find is that one of the reasons we are exhausted and depleted and resentful is because we are doing so much for our kids. We are giving them so much of ourselves. And one of the things that's really important to think about is that when we do so much for them, not only are we exhausted, but it's actually not good for them. So what I want to do is give you 3 ways you can think about setting firmer boundaries with your kids that you might not be doing now. But I want to acknowledge that one of the reasons we don't set these boundaries is because we don't necessarily want to deal with the behavior that comes when we set boundaries, or even the guilt that comes when we set boundaries. So I'm going to tell you how to set them without having to deal with kids who are always getting upset and the guilt that you may feel by setting boundaries. Before I do that, I want to tell you one brief thing. This is something that I learned personally. Now, I am a youngest child. Between my siblings and my step-siblings, there are actually 8 of us. So I'm the youngest, and I can tell you I grew up thinking that I was never heard. My voice was always quiet, and I felt like people didn't necessarily listen to me a lot. So I swore when I had kids, I would try really hard to listen to them, to make them feel heard. And when they were really young, I did this. I would look up and I would really try to listen to them. And what happened pretty quickly was not only was I exhausted, but they started to think that everyone was always going to listen to them all the time. And I realized that my trying to give them what I thought they needed was actually making things worse for me, and it was making things worse for them. So it's really important that we do show our kids they are not the center of the universe. So I'm going to suggest 3 things to consider that you may be doing or not doing now in how you can show your kids they're not the center of the universe. The first is, don't let them interrupt you all the time when you're talking. What I mean by that is they may try to interrupt you, but you don't have to stop talking if you're talking to a spouse or a friend. You don't have to stop what you're doing and listen to them all the time. You can let them know that when you're talking to their mom or their dad or a friend, that you are not going to listen. And the way you do this respectfully is by acknowledging that it is actually really hard for them to wait. So let them know this, and you can tell them ahead of time, hey, when I'm talking to your mom or dad, when right before dinner time, when we're talking, I need to talk to them. So I realize this is hard for you. While you're waiting, why don't you build something for me? Or if something comes up while I'm talking to mom or to dad, why don't you write it down or draw a picture of it so you don't forget? So you're setting that boundary. You're telling your child, you are not the center of the universe because I need to talk to someone else. But you're respecting the fact that this may be hard for them, and you're giving them tools to be successful. The other thing to consider is if you're not doing this, make sure you are prioritizing your other relationships, your relationships with your friends or your spouse. This means if you're not currently getting a babysitter to go out with your spouse or with friends, it's really important that you start to do that. You want to show your kids that they are not the only relationship in your life and that you prioritize other relationships as well. Now, if your kids don't love babysitters, again, you can do this respectfully. You can say, I know you wish that I would stay home tonight. I'm not going to do that though. But since this is hard for you, if you want to come up with a plan for how you're going to get through this night with the babysitter, I'm happy to do that for you. So again, you're showing them they're not the center of your universe, and you're respecting their perspective and giving them the tools to be successful. The last example of this, because I know this depletes a lot of us. Let's say your child is interested in a lot of different things and they want to do 2 or 3 activities, but that means you're going to be driving them all over, the state to be able to do those things, or you're going to be in the car a lot with them. What you can say to your child is, hey, I know you're interested in all 3 of those things. That just won't work for our family right now. So when you're ready, I'll help you figure out which one of those activities you really want to do. Just by saying that won't work for our family right now, you're letting them know they are not the center of everything. You're also doing this while being respectful of their perspective that they do want to do 3 things, and you're helping them figure out how to handle the boundary that you're setting. So really this comes down to how you're communicating with them. You're not getting angry with them for wanting things. You're understanding why they want things. You're setting that boundary, showing them they're not the center of your world, they're not the center of the universe, and you're giving them tools to be able to get through this. And that's ultimately how we raise kids who don't feel entitled and are still able to handle it when they don't get their way. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at rachel@rachel-bailey.com, and I'll see you next time.